Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Ask a Nutritionist webinar. My name is Stephanie Van't Zelfden. I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist based in South Jersey, just out of Philly. I'm so happy that you're here with me today. This is going to be our final webinar of September, but don't worry, I do have lots of additional webinars coming up next month in October. So be sure to check out my website where you can register for upcoming webinars. I'm really excited for today's topic. It is all about after school snacks. Now that we have been back to school for a couple weeks now, many parents, like myself, have experienced a hungry child coming home from school, and managing after school snacks can feel a little bit tricky or frustrating. So I'm here to offer you any advice I can to make that time of day a little bit easier for you. Stick around to the end if you're here live because I will be doing a Q&A. Okay, let's jump into it. First thing I want to do is talk a little bit about myself, introduce you to me a little bit more. So like I mentioned, my name is Stephanie. I'm a registered dietitian based out of South Jersey. I have been a dietitian since 2015, and in 2018, I opened my private practice, Nutrition Hungry. In my practice, I work with kids, adults, and families who are looking to improve their health and their relationship with food. My specialties include intuitive eating, child nutrition concerns like growth concerns or picky eating, as well as disordered eating or eating disorder recovery, binge eating concerns, and various medical conditions like diabetes, heart disease, hypertension, things like that. So if you're ever thinking that you might want to work with a dietitian privately for your kid or for yourself, please feel free to reach out to me to see if I'm able to help. I see folks virtually who live in New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania. But if you're in another state, you're also more than welcome to reach out to me, and I can help point you in the right direction to find someone more local. So let's talk first about why kids turn into snack monsters the minute they get home from school. I don't know about you, but I have certainly experienced this with my 5-year-old. And, there are many different reasons why kids are so hungry after school. One reason that I come across a lot, and I've even seen it with my own kid, is that the timing of school lunch or snack can be a little bit awkward, and it might not always align with when your kid is naturally hungry. I've seen some kids who have school lunch as early as 10:30 in the morning or as late as 1:30 in the afternoon. And so kids might just not be hungry at those times, and therefore they might not eat a lot and come home super hungry. Similarly, kids' lunchtimes at school tend to be very short, and it is like a problem. I know my own kid has 20 minutes total for lunch, so actual eating time is probably more like 15 minutes, and that's not a lot of time, and it can be really tricky for kids to eat enough, especially kids that are maybe slow eaters or kids who need some extra time to adjust to maybe loud noises, or even just kids who are like social and like to chit chat while they eat lunch. Another reason along those lines why kids might be so hungry after school is that it can be really hard for them to focus on their food while they're at school. There are a million and one other things going on. They're seeing what their friends are doing. They're adjusting to like the transition of lunchtime. They're getting distracted by the noises and the sights and so much movement. School cafeterias are not the most peaceful and calm places to enjoy a meal, as many of you have probably experienced in your life. So, what can happen is kids have a hard time hearing and feeling their hunger and fullness, and they might end up eating just enough to not feel hungry anymore, rather than eating enough to really fill up and be satisfied. So then by the time they get home from school, their tank is just totally on empty. And a third reason why kids get so hungry is simply that they are growing and they need extra fuel. Kids are so busy, not only physically, but they're doing so much mental and emotional learning at school. So, all of this growth and development requires a good amount of food to fuel their busy bodies. So, next, I want to share with you sort of my go to formula or template for building after school snacks that are going to be really filling and satisfying for your kids' hungry belly. So, let me show you this. So, what I like to think about is different food categories. So, you can see in this little diagram here grains, fruits and vegetables, and protein and healthy fats. So I like to think about these different sort of food categories when I'm choosing and building a snack. And if we provide a snack with just one food group, it's going to be less filling. And this may or may not be what you want after school. If you need a snack to just hold your kid over for a little bit until dinner, and let's say dinner's not that far away, maybe it's half an hour or an hour away, you might actually want to choose a snack with one item so that it is a little bit less filling. So this might be a piece of fruit or a cheese stick or some goldfish crackers. But if you need a snack that's going to be more filling, going to hold your kid over for longer, or your kid's just like, your kid has a bigger appetite, you might want to choose a snack with 2 or 3 of the food categories represented. So some examples of what these snacks would be something like an apple with cheese and crackers, or some yogurt with fruit and granola. By pairing these different food items together, you're making a snack that's going to be more filling for your kid. In general, I find that the most filling foods are the ones that have protein, fat, and or fiber in it. So that's something to keep in mind when you're choosing what to offer for a snack. So for example, a cheese stick is going to be more filling than pretzels because you have the protein and the fat from the cheese stick. Peanut butter sandwich crackers are going to be more filling than chips because you have the protein from the peanut butter. And even something like ice cream, let's say, is going to be more filling than a piece of fruit because you have the extra fiber and the protein from the ice cream. So you can use this knowledge and observe how your kid is responding to different snacks when you're thinking about what to offer. Because there's a lot of different scenarios that every family is different. Some kids are getting home from school at 3 o'clock or 3:30, and let's say there's a longer time until dinner. You might want to give them something more filling because it's going to be a longer time to wait. Maybe other kids are doing sports and they just need something more filling to fuel their after school sports. And some kids, maybe, they're not getting home from school or from after school until 5, 5:30, 6 o'clock. And yes, maybe they're hungry after school, but you don't want to fill them up too much because you're hoping that they'll still have a bit of an appetite for dinner. The point is that there's no wrong way to do it. You can really tailor the approach to what's going to work best for your family. So one thing I want to ask you is, do you ever find yourself in that whine cycle after school where your kid is just like, I don't want that, on repeat, or eating snacks and they're just like, I'm still hungry, I'm still hungry. It can be so tough. So I wanted to give you some tips to help move past the whining and help them get on the path to be more independent with choosing their own snacks. And the way we get there is to involve them in the process. Involving kids in choosing their food is so empowering. Kids have just so little control in their lives and they love being able to get it wherever they can. And so with food, we can help them to make those snack choices and we can teach them about balance and help them see how different foods make their body feel. So, this is not a free for all. This is not, telling your kid, hey, go to the, cabinet, go to the fridge and get whatever you want for a snack, because I think we all know what would happen. It would just be fruit snacks and Pirate's Booty all day, every day, right? So this is a more kind of structured approach to that. So for younger kids, what I recommend is, you as the parent or caregiver, select 2 or 3 items and then give your kid the choice between those items. Depending on your kid, you could offer them options within each food category, or you can offer them kind of whole snacks and let them choose between those. So one example is you could say, hey, do you want to have apple or grapes for your fruit today? And would you like to have crackers or pretzels to go with it? And let them choose between those options. Another example, if you were going to offer the whole snack as one, is you could say, hey, for snack today, would you like to have apple with peanut butter, or would you like cheese and crackers? And let them decide between those options. As we get into older kids, we can start to ask questions to help them gain the confidence in choosing foods themselves. So this is what I'm currently working on with my 5-year-old. But keep in mind, every kid is different as far as when they might be ready for this additional independence. So you could start off by saying, hey, do you have any ideas for snack today, or do you want me to give you some options to choose from? Let's say your kid throws out an idea like fruit snacks, which I hear all the time. I might reply with, okay, sure, yeah, go get some fruit snacks. And what should we have to go with it? I hear you, and I hear that your belly is really hungry. So let's pick something else to go with it to really help fill up your belly. Another approach that I see a lot of families do is they make a special section in their fridge or their pantry where they put different snacks in them, and then your kid can choose between those options. So it might be a special basket or a drawer in your fridge, fill it up with different snacks, and then after school you can invite your kid to pick out maybe 2 or 3 items from their special snack area. And with older kids, I would check in on them and ask them, how are you feeling about your snack? Was it enough food for your belly? Was it too much food? Did it give you enough energy for your sports, for doing homework? Is there anything extra with your snack that you think you might be missing? So the next thing I want to talk about is what some people might think is a little bit of a controversial topic about how to handle things like sweets or, for lack of a better term, packaged snacks, things like chips, pretzels, gummies, kind of in that category. And some people think I'm a little bit out there as a dietitian, encouraging folks to give your kids candy, but I will explain it, and it is a really helpful approach to serving these foods. So, the first thing to acknowledge is that kids love sweets. They love packaged snacks. Adults love them too. I love them as well. I'm sure many of you do as well. Why do we love these foods? Well, first, we love them because they're tasty, they're delicious. We also love them because they're consistent. They're always the same. And for kids, a lot of time that consistency feels predictable and it feels safe. And that's one of the reasons why they're so drawn to those foods. We also love them because our culture and the food industry in general goes through a lot of effort to make these foods feel so special and exciting. The market is really saturated with snacks, so companies do whatever they can do to make their snacks seem the best, the most exciting, and the most special. It's something that, the apple farmers, for example, just can't compete with. Although you do see this sort of marketing language pop up with other kinds of produce, like you might have seen the type of grapes, cotton candy grapes, or the like cuties oranges. They use sort of these marketing strategies to help us feel really excited about these foods, and it makes them feel inherently more special. So what I suggest is serve these foods often. So like I mentioned, you might think it's a little bit crazy for a dietitian to recommend serving your kid candy, but I believe this and it works. When we serve these foods often, they become less special, less exciting. They become more ordinary. Kids stop being so obsessed and fixated on the thrill of these foods. They stop sneaking these foods, they stop begging for more, and sometimes they don't even finish the whole amount because it's just so ordinary and they can listen to their body to tell them when to stop eating rather than feeling like they have to eat the whole thing because they just get caught up in the excitement of it. Take it a step further, and I often suggest, if you can, to take the food out of its packaging. So there's something about the crinkle of like a chip bag that just does something to your brain that just makes it, so exciting. It's like the jingle on the ice cream truck. So take the chips out of the bag, put it into a bowl, open up the package of fruit snacks and empty it out. It further makes that food more ordinary. The next thing I suggest, just like in this graphic that you see, is pair these foods with other food items so that it becomes a more filling and complete snack. One thing that's tough about sweets and packaged snacks is usually they're not very high in protein, fat, and fiber, so they don't actually fill up your belly very well. So if your kid is coming home and they're hungry, they're going to have to eat so much pirate's booty to fill them up. And by that point, it just might not feel so good in their belly. And I'm not trying to pick on pirate's booty, just so you know, I really do love, that food, that snack. It's just one example that I like to use. So, in this picture here, you can see pairing something like chocolate with apple and peanut butter, pairing a piece of candy with a granola bar or with cheese and crackers so that your kid still gets to enjoy that lovely and delicious food, but they also have other things to go with it that can keep them going until dinner time. And another thing I would say is that it is totally okay and it's not bad parenting to let your kid experience what it feels like to eat too many sweets. We don't need to guilt them. We don't need to shame them about it. We don't need to say, well, that wasn't a good idea, was it? This is how we learn what feels best in our body. It's hard to know what is too much sweets until you experience eating too much sweets. And it won't happen just once, just so you know, it'll happen several times. But this is just part of the experience and part of the process, and it'll really help your kid have the confidence and the attunement to what's going on in their own body. So, if your kid has a day where they eat too many sweets or too many chips and they get a tummy ache, it's totally okay to empathize with them. Overeating is part of the human experience. We can say, oh, yeah, that has happened to me before and it does not feel good. And we can help them feel better. We can go for a walk. We can offer them some like warm tea, or we could just rub their belly, help them feel better. We can also ask them questions, so if 5 cookies, let's say, was too much, I wonder what amount do you think would feel just right for your body? Or we could say, how do you think you want to approach this next time you have this food? And just see what they say. A lot of times they can get there on their own, and it takes some trial and error, but they can get there. And so lastly, let's talk a little bit about the kid who goes all in on snacks, but then isn't really hungry for dinner. This can be really frustrating, especially for us as parents. We spend so much time and effort thinking about dinner, considering our kids' preferences, cooking dinner, shopping for groceries, or buying dinner. And it can feel a little insulting when they'd rather fill up on snacks than what we've prepared. So I totally feel you. One thing to consider is having a cutoff time for snack once it's getting closer to dinner. A lot of this will depend on when your kid gets home from school, after school or sports. So, some kids, like I mentioned, don't get home until a little bit later, and maybe dinner is not too far away. So it's really your call on how you want to handle it. But I think it's totally reasonable to have a cutoff of like 20, 30 minutes or more before dinner time. And you can expect some pushback from your kid, which is fine, but you can offer them some reassurance that dinner is going to be ready very soon. Another strategy is to help keep them occupied before dinner, keep that whining to a minimum by inviting them to help you, by cooking dinner, by setting the table, or even by taste testing some of what you've prepared. I know a lot of kids will have a little appetizer, so to speak, by maybe munching on whatever fruit or maybe some cut up veggies that you're planning to serve at dinner anyway. And I also think that we can consider our expectations and maybe consider adjusting our expectations for our kids' appetite at dinner. It is totally normal for kids to have a lower appetite at dinner, and that's okay. If the idea of trying to hold off on snacks or have a cutoff time before dinner isn't realistic for you, or if it's just something that that's not desired by your family, that is absolutely fine. Maybe you prefer for your kids' larger meal to be more around that after school time, and then their dinner might be thought of more as a snack or a smaller meal. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And if that mindset shift is helpful for you, it might actually even open up some more ideas for what you serve after school. It can be something a little bit larger, like a sandwich or a hot meal. It doesn't have to be sort of what we think of as the typical snacky foods. So, you can really feel okay following your kid's natural flow of the appetite, especially if it helps to lower the stress for you and for your family. So I just want to thank you so much for joining today. If you are here live, please stick around because we are going to do a little bit of Q&A in a minute. So you can start putting any questions you have into the chat and I'll be able to look over and read them. Just a reminder to go to my website and you can see upcoming webinars I have for October. I am going to be doing a webinar all about Halloween candy. So if you are liking the way that we were talking about sweets and candy today, definitely join me. I think it's in 2 weeks. I'll be doing a webinar specific to Halloween candy. And I also have different topics for October. I'm going to be doing some webinars geared more toward adults. I'm going to be doing one about baby food and another webinar about body image. So please take a look at those and you can register for those as well. And like I mentioned, if you're ever interested in working one-on-one with a dietitian for yourself or for your kids, please feel free to reach out to me. Even if you're not local to New York, New Jersey, or Pennsylvania, I'd be more than happy to help point you in the right direction.